Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sudden Wealth. I hope you guys are doing very well. If you do enjoy the content, please consider dropping that like and subscribe. It greatly helps the channel. So, thank you very much. Now, quick update on the US politics side. I guess there's a lot of rumors and growing in nature that Biden will step down as early as this weekend. Yesterday evening, I have to say that I saw something quite funny. I never thought I would say this in my lifetime, but when I was a kid, when I was younger, I was a huge wrestling fan. So I loved it all. I loved the Undertaker, Hulk Hogan, The Rock, Stone Cold, Steve Austin, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Sting, Ric Flair, all of those guys. And there was something special about watching Hulk Hogan cutting a wrestling promo in the Republican National Convention, and calling the Trump fans the Trumpomaniacs. And of course, there was a coin today on Ethereum, two coins actually that did extremely well with Trumpomania. So I have to say now, I can say now that I lived to see Hulk Hogan cutting a wrestling promo in the middle of US elections after what happened in the previous Saturday. So that was quite funny. On the other side, it seems very obvious now that Biden's going to step out. The Democrats have turned against him. I hope that he's allowed to just step out and carry on with his final days in peace. When I suggested that something could happen to him, an accident could happen to him, I was really hoping that it didn't, and I hope that by him stepping aside, no longer an accident will happen. If he does indeed step aside, there's also rumors that he won't nominate Kamala Harris. And I mean, I think there's a lot of hopes for Gavin Newsom, but to be honest, I don't think he's going to move against Trump on after what just transpired over the last Saturday, because that's pretty much, most likely going to lose. And once again, I mean, Gavin Newsom, it's a question very simple for the other states, which is, would you like to become California, right? So I think Kamala Harris, also due to the donations, seems to be the more likely option. We'll see. I'm actually, despite the fact that, as you guys know, I'm in favor that Trump wins this election, mostly because of the crypto side and the conflict side. But I was starting to feel that there was, it was transpiring very clearly the possibility that something nasty was going to happen to him. You remember yesterday here, I had the thought, and I said the U.S. seems to be losing grip on some parts of the world economy, and I said I was afraid that we're going to have another Iraq moment. Everybody knows what happened in 2004 with Iraq, and I was feeling that we were going into the direction of doing the same thing with Iran. And all of a sudden, as I said this, I came across a few news saying that there's assassination plots against Trump by the Iranians, and I said, "Oh boy, here we go." Literally, I spoke about it in my video, and all of a sudden, I find that, and I start, by God, I really hope we don't do this, and I really hope we can just get to the elections, get everything sorted out. I actually hope that one side wins decisively, so we don't come across again, he stole the election, the other one stole the election. Is all. I mean, no, I actually hope one party, and which one, wins so decisively that there's no room for discussion. Now, something that I would like to say. So Bitcoin is close to 67,000. Pulse chain ecosystem starting to show very clear signs of life. As you guys know, I've mentioned this a few weeks ago, that I deployed my last massive clip when we were considerably lower. So I'm very nicely and comfortable in this position. And I truly hope that those will be my retirement coins, as everybody knows. But I'm also doing extremely well with the lottery tickets in general. Not everyone, some of them garbage. So one of them that I talked about, the MAGA Wolf, has been completely down the toilet. So you guys know I'm always transparent. If they do well, I tell you. If they do poorly, I also tell you. 40, which I've sold for a few of these, also not doing great. MAGA Andy, I've decreased my cost average quite a bit, and Bone is doing fine. think I'm up 50% on that one. And Zip from Alan, I think I'm down maybe a third, maybe 33% down or something like that. All the rest has been doing quite well. Now, Bitcoin at 67,000. This is happening in the middle of the distribution of the Mt. Gox coins. Once again, the Germans are out. Mt. Gox is being processed, which is all positive news. And I was actually wondering, one thing that I was curious about, which was a bit out of the blue, a couple of weeks ago, you remember, guys, I flagged this to you, is that I was very convinced that, I've said this in March and in February, when Bitcoin was at 70,000 plus, and everybody was predicting Bitcoin 100K. I said we should go to 47 to 52K. I think we went to 52.9. That's fine. It's not exactly in line with my prediction, but I think it's good enough. And that would take maximum 3 months. And actually, we put in the bottom about 10 days before we did 3 months. So everything occurred as planned. And we've put in the bottom, and now we are at 67,000. And Trump has been extremely pro-crypto. He will be talking at the Bitcoin conference. And Vance, his vice president, is also very pro-crypto, is anti-Gary Gensler, and he owns $250,000 of Bitcoin himself. So if that party wins, if the Republicans win, it's going to be extremely positive for crypto, obviously. And I do believe he's the most likely candidate to win, and I think most people actually believe the same. Now, for my older followers, you will remember that when we were in the middle of, or we were coming out of the bear market, but we were in the recovery year, which was 2023, it was extremely boring because it's like watching paint dry. I was talking about the strategy for the cycle, and particular, what if it's a super cycle, okay? A super cycle would be something similar to so 2021 was excellent, but 2017 was, my God, was in a different scale. Was really it was hard to mess it up, to put it bluntly, right? And we needed a few things for a super cycle, and there would be ways to look for top signals. So when I was talking about the crypto market, I said the bottom is in for Bitcoin, and it was October 2022, and I said we are now in the recovery year in which we go up more than we go down, but we have these 2 to 3 months sideways movements where it seems like we're not going anywhere. So let's take this opportunity to start to know when we are progressing in the bull market, when we are entering the euphoria phase, and when we hit the top signals. So one of the top signals that I had was Ethereum ETF, as long as it comes around late 2024, meaning late November, December, that could be a top signal, or early 2025. Obviously, the Ethereum ETF will come up next week, which means that's not going to be the top signal, but it was an example of one to look for. Other ones that I've discussed was Jim Cramer dedicating full episodes to crypto and meme coins, maybe big IPO of a certain crypto business, and other countries. You may recall this one, other countries using Bitcoin as reserves, just like El Salvador does. Now, you don't need to make it legal tender. You can just use it like gold, like central banks do with gold, where they accumulate it for strategic reserves. Do the same thing with Bitcoin. Now, what I mentioned at the time was, and actually one of my followers messaged me about this. He wanted to watch this video because he remembered what I said. And I said, look, for a normal cycle, a good top signal would be other countries follow the example of El Salvador. And he asked me which countries. It was in a live stream. I remember because I always got this question. Let's say Argentina, Nigeria, countries like this. So that would be, let's say, a more normal cycle, but that would be a very good top signal, particularly if it happened in 2025. And what I said, what could be a super cycle? Well, a country making it part of the strategic reserves, and that country is the US. Now that is something, because you give the green light to not only the countries which have been struggling with high inflation like Argentina and terrible conditions and poverty like Nigeria, but now you're bringing the rich countries to look at this as if it is, a real asset with real strategic purpose, real reserve, real digital gold. Yeah. And I said that would be your top signal for a super cycle. And today, there are the rumors that Bitcoin, Trump will attend the Bitcoin conference, and there are the rumors online that Trump will make Bitcoin part of the strategic reserves when he's president. That would explain to me why BlackRock is buying so aggressively Bitcoin, and we're talking about at least $100 million a day of buying, because these guys, they are always aware of these things well ahead of us. We are always behind the curve. Now, when I was predicting this, when I was saying that this could be a top signal, now, obviously, if he's elected in November 2024, he will only step in January 2025, assuming that he takes care of other things which are priority. I would assume that Bitcoin could become part of the reserves sometime in quarter 3 2025, because that way he has 7 months of presidency. He probably took care of a lot of things in the first 6 months, and now he can look at it during the summer. In that context, I think it will be the perfect top signal for Bitcoin. Ethereum tops afterwards, and altcoins have the last hoorah and the last push into the moon sometime between Q3, Q4 2025, and that way you have a super cycle, but that just goes. Basically, we don't have diminishing returns, we have massive returns. And then you ask me how I can Bitcoin go. Look, my targets are 242,000 up to 276,000, and Ethereum somewhere between 25 to 29,000. Okay, I mean, but if the US is stepping in, it depends on what kind of reserves they get. I mean, if they get trillions of dollars, I mean, then the sky's the limit, to be honest. I mean, I don't know, right? If they get like $1 trillion, let's put $1 trillion in crypto. I mean, the total crypto market cap at the moment is 2.4 trillion. So if you put $1 trillion just one single country, I mean, then it becomes extremely hard to predict. I'm just throwing numbers that I think would make sense, somewhere between 240, 276,000. But then if other countries in Europe, for example, follow the example, then the sky is the limit. Then we are talking, then everybody won. Then it's going to be very hard to lose, because you really need to find something that is a complete scam. So as long as you keep away from scams, the amount of liquidity that's going to come into the system should lift all tides, obviously. But that is a bit for the future. My point being is, now it's the time. Now we're going to benefit from the bull market, and it's going to be becoming more and more aggressive into the upside as we move on. Okay, it's important, because when you are in the middle of the euphoria phase, it's going to be very hard to make sensible, reasonable decisions, because you will have all sorts of information telling you that this time is different, this time there's not going to be a bear market, and we're going to go straight to the moon, and nothing will stop us, and the cycle is broken, and there's never going to be a sell-off. So you're going to hear these things, and it's going to convince you, because you see your portfolio going up and up and up. But it's important to understand that a top signal will come, but you're going to be so crazy, in so much craziness in the middle of the cycle, that it's going to be difficult to spot. So that's why it's important to be 1 year ahead of time, 1 to 1.1 year and a quarter, let's say, ahead of time, thinking about these things, because once these things happen, you are prepared. And what I'm going to do at that time, you guys do whatever you want. I'm going to say, I think the top is in. I'm going to start shaving, I'm going to probably shave 75 to 80% of my exposure. Why? Because if I'm wrong, those 20% will go up, tenfold, 20-fold. I'm okay with it. If I'm right, I saved myself. You see, because I am convinced that Bitcoin and Ethereum will come back. But will all the other altcoins come back? I mean, XRP is down versus Bitcoin for 8 years. Litecoin is down versus Bitcoin for 8 years. You see my point? It's not all of them come back. Actually, the majority don't come back. About 90% of the coins don't come back. So it's important to keep this in mind, because this can go extremely quickly. You can look at a portfolio of 10 million one day, and the next day is 3 million, and then it goes up to 6 million, and then you promise that if it goes to 8 you sell, but then it drops to 4 million, and by the end of it, you're so disgusted with yourself, you're probably gonna sell around 600,000, and you're gonna feel terribly for the rest of your life. So that's why I think, in my view, I mean, you guys do whatever you want. If you want to go full leverage on, if you want to keep in the market 100%, if you want to don't take any profit, look, guys, up to you. If you disagree with my top signals, you are perfectly fine. But it's so much fun that not only a potential top signal that I flagged was in other countries, following up the example of El Salvador, I even gave you an example of a top signal for a super cycle, which would be a country like the US doing this, following the steps of El Salvador, even if they don't use it as legal tender. So this is the point, right? I said this in 2023, so more than a year ago, or at least, almost a year ago, because I don't remember if I said it in June or September, probably around September, so let's say 10 months ago. And it's not, the key is you need to think what could be, which things could be. That's the point. You need to do that mental exercise, because if you are prepared, you will be better off than 99.9% in this space. And I must say this because it's a reality. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. And I've seen this so many times. I have seen so many confessions and stories you wouldn't believe. And it repeats and happens over and over and over again, which tells me that people don't learn. So here it is. I know it's not a popular view. Let's hope that the rumors are true. Let's see what he announces during his Bitcoin conference. And let's hope, indeed, for our crypto's sake, that he wins the election. And with that, guys, thank you very much for your support, and I'll catch you in the next one. And most importantly, that he survives until the election as well. So thank you very much, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.